And welcome to another edition of South Texas Now. This is attorney and nurse practitioner Joe Flores, reminding you to join us here not only on CBS, NBC, CW, Caja, Telemundo, and also KTMV, and also on social media. With me today, I have a very distinguished attorney, but also a former judge, not only of the county, but also he also presided over other cases, particularly those involving juveniles. And I welcome him. I have deep respect for him. Terry Shamsie, welcome, sir. How are you?
Pleasure to see you again, Joe.
Yeah,
doing
good
well.
to see you. Thank you.
I don't know how you remember all that.
Well, I don't. I just comes out about, you get old enough, everything just comes out like a Pledge of Allegiance, right? I invited you on because I'm deeply concerned about the law of watching the jury or behavior that would happen on the jury. And for the record here, this is my curiosity, and I think that it's a public concern. Yeah. So could you tell us and the people, when they go on a jury, let's say they were on the Charles Manson or some, right, crazed killer, they don't want to be heard, right?
Right.
Number one, how they voted, perhaps, and that's their right. But we can poll them, right, afterward if the judge allows it.
That's right.
But this is something new with technology. There was a jury or juries recently that have been recorded by film.
That's right. So in November of last year, we found out that Judge Klein, the district judge here in Oasis County, Judge Ina Klein, had a camera in her courtroom. And because of COVID, the jurors were deliberating in the courtroom and not in the jury room. And that camera captured not only that trial and the deliberations, the jury's private deliberations, audio and video of those deliberations on a murder charge, but potentially 2 other trials she had, and I still have to go back and get that forensic data on those two trials.
And we're talking audio and video, or do we know?
Both. Yeah, we know. I gathered, I obtained a court order from another judge to get access to that hard drive. I retrieved it through an expert, and I reviewed it all. And it's very clear. You see all the jurors, you hear them all, you hear the discussions, the deliberations, and it's kind of shocking, to be honest with you.
And so what is wrong with that? Let's say somebody says, well, what's wrong with that? They're serving on the jury, they're deliberating, they find somebody guilty. What does it matter that they hear what they talked about?
Right. So if the jurors' expectation when they get into the room where they deliberate is everything's private. So you can talk freely. Nobody's holding back. And it allows open discussion and open analysis of the facts and the law as given to them. And therefore, the jury verdict will be clean, pure, right? So that you won't have someone saying, well, if they're listening to me or watching to me, I don't want to ask this question. I don't want to debate this issue. So it gives a free flow of ideas and free flow of debate. And that secrecy has been like that for over 200 years. No one is supposed to watch or listen to a jury deliberate.
Including a judge and his or her staff. That's right.
Nobody. You're not allowed.
So what happened? Some people, when they read the newspaper, I hate to date shows, but a few days ago, rather, it showed. I asked somebody just out of curiosity. It's a non-lawyer. You read the article about the Judicial Ethics Commission or whatever on the judge. It didn't look that harsh on the face of it, that maybe just a slap on the wrist.
Right. So the Judicial Commission ruled that, well, since basically this is what they said, there was a problem, camera was there, recorded them, and since the judge remedied it and removed the camera, everything's good. Don't worry about it. And that's not probably the final say on it, but that's where it stands now. The problem is they violated the law by doing that. And so we're very clear. There's two issues. One is the recording of the jury, audio and video, which is illegal, and then watching a jury. So while they were recording the jury, they also had the defense lawyers, the prosecutor, three prosecutors, two defense lawyers, the court staff, and the judge coming in and out in a room of the size of 12 by 11 feet, so size of a kid's little bedroom. All of them there, and it had a monitor displaying the visual deliberations of the jury for 2 days. And we now know that the jury voted. Sometimes jurors vote, right, verbal, right? So you really can't tell how they're voting. This jury voted by the raising of hands, and that's been documented and verified by reviewing the audio and the videotape of the jury deliberations.
I'm not clear. The Judicial Ethics Commission said, okay, since she cured it or took the camera out, but there's still film. There's still a hard drive,
That's
right?
That's right.
So what does this do to cases down the road with other judges, with this judge in particular?
Right.
What do you think could happen, possibly, because you're in the unique position, you've been a judge?
Right. Well, I still think there's some privacy issues, first of all, so there could be some civil issues about that, the right to privacy of a juror, and when someone's watching them or listening to them, the recording of them. There is going to be some issues, I think, of ethics on the lawyers. We have now 2 lawyers. One of them, very honest, took the stand and testified that he walked in the room, Veronica Muniz and George Pija, the 2 defense lawyers, and Michael Winnie and Holt Feimster, the 2 other district attorneys, were in the room when the monitor was displaying the deliberations, along with the court coordinator, the judge's court coordinator. The judge came in and out of her office a few times during that process. He said maybe, if I'm remembering the transcript, he was there maybe 10, 15 minutes. And the defense lawyer, without knowing that she was being recorded on the same camera later on the next day, or the 2 days later, indicated that the DA's office and they all knew that they were in this room watching the jury deliberate. And they thought it was okay because one of the lawyers said, well, as long as it's on mute and you can't hear them, everything's fine. So I think the lawyers have some ethical issues.
And those issues, let's say another scenario, would it even be more egregious if it was a grand jury that, because are they meeting in courtrooms right now, if you're aware, with a camera in there? Because cameras are in there all the time in the courtrooms now, just like in federal court. What about grand juries? Do you know anything about that? I
don't know anything about the grand jury procedure, how that is that's recorded or where that's at. I think that's in a separate room. There's no cameras in that room.
So, thank God.
Yeah, but it's very serious because the person that's in charge, Judge Klein, knew and that a camera was recording, and she knew. I don't think anyone can say she didn't know, because her courtroom is fixed where the people who are deliberating are in one part of the courtroom. Right outside the courtroom is her chambers, her private chambers. Next to her chambers is the court coordinator's office. And that's where the lawyers gathered, and that's where they did the jury notes. When the jury sent notes out, they responded to that. So I don't think anyone can say and be honest by saying it that no one watched it or the judge didn't know this was occurring. I think they decided to take a position of silence, like don't say anything and no one will know exactly what happened. The problem is Doug Norman told the truth, and then the video recording that I obtained showed the truth of what happened that day.
And for the record, Doug Norman is an appellate attorney generally for the state.
For the state. That's
so he had the integrity as a government agent not to cover up.
Right. A Republican, been practicing over 30 years, practicing the law, so politics doesn't enter the picture. Although they try to spin it that it's political. It's not political. You got caught. And now they're in a world of hurt because it's going to affect a lot of other cases.
Yes, because he's a Republican. Yeah, okay, he's a Republican lawyer, and she's a Republican judge. So it's not like some Democrat is trying to hurl mud or vice versa, or some Republican saying that's a rhino judge. I'm going to Republican in name only.
That's right.
And so none of that comes to play. We've got a couple of minutes before the break, but let me ask you this: how did the DA get involved after Doug Norman? And in a word, the people that didn't want to talk, the staff and everything, were flat-footed, maybe? Is that a good term?
So what the state did is they decided on the second hearing to grant everybody immunity, so they would be forced to testify about what they knew. Most of them had amnesia. They couldn't really remember what was going on at the time, wasn't sure. So a lot of them took that out. They did not know at that time, though, that I had captured a 1 and 20-second video that the court staff admitted to the recording and the defense lawyers admitted to being in the room while the video was playing and watching.
Is any of this video, before we go to break, is it a public record that we could play? It
is. So what I did is during that hearing, for the purpose of that video, where it does not include the jury deliberations, it is between the bailiff and the two defense lawyers. I entered that into my case as Exhibit S, and so that's available to the public.
So anybody can get it. For the producers and for all the stations I'm on, this is publicly obtained. The public can demand to get Exhibit S and look at that video.
That's right.
So we can go to that video perhaps to break.
That's right.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, you're with Joe Flores, attorney at law and nurse practitioner, and with my esteemed guest, former judge, and one of the best lawyers I know, Terry Shamsie. And we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back with more.